Oh, it's so freezing lately, Jesus Christ. Good morning, everyone, at the time of my recording here. DivineZ episode 1 has aired and the new anime has begun for the D era. I was gonna say series and era, and then you probably noticed I do this a lot where I try to put two words at the same time and then the one word that comes out sounds weird. But anyway, Divine started, and I don't normally make these anime videos too much, put them out every so often here and there. But I thought that maybe today it'd be nice to look back and give my first impressions of the first episode, and I didn't want to put it out too early because I wanted everyone to have a chance to watch this, because this video will have spoilers in it. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go watch it on the official Vanguard YouTube channel. And I think waiting until Tuesday is usually fine, because that's when the official live stream usually starts to talk about spoilers as well. So I think I'm kind of just following their status quo. But anyway, episode 1 for DivineZ was actually quite refreshing in a way. My expectations going into it weren't particularly high. I think I've been spoiled by Shadowverse Flame, showing me that modern card game anime can indeed still be peak, where we have fantastic character writing and everyone is treated excellently, where it feels like if Shadowverse Flame is kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds in the sense that any one of the important characters could be the protagonist, because that's how much depth and character building there is for each and every one of them. To me, Shadowverse Flame has set the bar for card game anime so high that now this is the bare minimum I respect. And looking back at a lot of the overdressed anime series, a lot of them do not even satisfy that bar, minus for Overdressed Season 2. So of course, walking into DivineZ, my expectations weren't particularly high, because I feel like Will Dress was a lot of a big mishmash of just kind of like wasted potential, and at times it was really good, but most of the times it was quite predictable and didn't really give me anything too fresh and exciting to get excited about. But DivineZ managed to actually surpass those expectations and give me something pretty cool to look at. So this is your final spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I will be talking about spoilers from now on. First things first, Akina, our protagonist, is very refreshing. It feels like we're back to Chrono, but it's like G next Chrono, because he's not like a bratty child, he's like a much older high school student. And overall, his way of interacting with the other characters and with the world around him does feel very natural. So even the way he reacts to meeting Masanori is like the actual way a normal human being, a person, would react to meeting a shady bald guy at a shrine at night. And I think that that already sets him up to be a very likable and relatable protagonist, which I think is going to be very nice, considering that Yu was a very interesting character that I feel like wasn't delved into enough. I feel like Yu had so much potential as a very interesting and deep and well-written character, but they just kind of wasted a lot of that potential, or kind of rushed through the character development at times. Whereas with Akina, already from episode 1, I feel like he's already quite well developed, and it's going to be more interesting to see how he interacts with the world and characters around him and helps them grow, which again makes me think back to things like G Next Chrono, where he was already a developed character and it was more about the surrounding characters around him. Maybe this is not a good thing, because maybe some people want to see the main character grow from zero and kind of raise up into something amazing, but I feel like we already had that with the Overdressed series, and I think it's fine to kind of have someone like this now. Gabrielius as our sort of mascot side character has also been very nice. Fukujun being his voice actor, of course, of Code Geass Lelouch fame, is also a very nice thing to have and just hear every week in my card game anime. And he also voices the masked character that we saw very briefly, which was also kind of interesting, and people are kind of already expecting, like, was there anything deeper to this? And of course, everyone likes the Gabrielius getting punched scene quite a lot. We've already seen it memed quite a bit on Twitter. So I think having moments like that is very nice, because that is already like a very easily memeable moment that is going to get shared around the general anime community, and therefore might get some eyes on the anime, which I feel like outside of just like really pretty fight Sakuga, we've been kind of lacking from Vanguard a little bit. So that's good. Good points there. I think also they handled establishing the stakes pretty well while introducing the main cast. So we already see, Akina's relationship with his sister and sort of like how he wants to be there to save her. And even without us knowing what the divine skills do or what the cards will do, like Rezael itself, they already established that, like Akina wants to heal his sister from her condition, and therefore his divine skill will probably have something to do with healing. So we can already, as card gamers, have something to work with, right? We're like, oh, this card we're excited about, maybe its skill will have something to do with healing a damage. So they're already doing a pretty good job of keeping the average anime viewer engaged and also having the card gamer engaged too. I think the base cast introduction was fine. I assume we're gonna have more returning characters over time too. They get to establish Taizo as this, character that's obviously a big deal for people that haven't watched the previous seasons, but clearly is a little bit in a, bit of a rough spot, not being able to really win too much and always losing on these tournament matches. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to treat the returning characters, especially Taizo, where he's definitely had this sort of like has to look composed, hasn't really had that breaking point yet, but looks like he's nearing that breaking point. But maybe they're not going to show that breaking point because he gets the divine skill card. So I guess we're going to see. I do hope that they show the moments of encounter with each of the divine cards for each of the characters, because it was cool to see Akina sort of like meet Rezael, right, and like have that moment of like, oh, healing, right? So I hope that each of the other characters has an episode, or at least a portion of the episode dedicated to why they get the divine skill card and how it connects to them as a character, and how that skill of the card expresses what the character wants to do. As usual, the OP is a banger. I think openings don't usually miss with Vanguard. It's very rare for us to have a bad one, but this one in particular is very visually pleasing too, so big fan. Definitely going to be listening to it a lot once the full version comes out. And I think a big thing that, especially at the end of the episode, a lot of us felt is this return to tradition, where of course we have Dragon Empire rival Keter Sanctuary main character, so there's that, you know, Overlord Blaster Blade parallel, but the fact that Nao hits us with the Imagine It line with the Planet Cray imagery is something we haven't seen done in a very long time. So they are very much finally pivoting on the nostalgia without actually throwing that nostalgia in our face too much. You don't have to trigger that nostalgic feeling in your veteran consumers' brains by just showing the specific nostalgic imagery. We don't need to see Kai or Dragonic Overlord or Blaster Blade to go, oh, nostalgia. Seeing Nao go, Imagine It, throw it to Planet Cray, and then seeing the characters turn into the starters, that is how you trigger a good nostalgic feeling, while still giving the new people that come into the franchise something new to get attached to, so they don't have to go like, oh, I don't know this Kai dude, I don't know this Dragonic Overlord guy. So they have something new to attach to, and us returning or existing players are like, oh my god, it's the thing, it's from way back then. So that's really good. They handle that super well, and I'm really curious to see how the fight's gonna go and how much they're gonna reference things from the past, because I think that is like, just like chef's kiss. They did that really well and everyone was very excited. So more of that, please. I think everyone's quite happy to see it. However, there is a however in a certain tradition that we've had established with the dress series, and I'm afraid that the tradition has sort of rooted itself pretty hard now, in that at the start of every single dress season, we've had very good episode 1s. Episode 1 for Overdress, of course, established a lot of characters, but it showed us that banger fight animation between Toya and Danji, and a lot of people, even people that don't watch the anime like Maxime, were like, oh my god, this is amazing. Will Dress, same thing happened. They played Jam Project during the freaking first episode, and everyone got super excited about Tournament Arc and all that stuff, and then ended up being a very predictable mess. I mean, I think Will Dress Season 1 was still very enjoyable despite being predictable, but that's besides the point. And so it feels like every single episode so far of these Overdress anime series, we've had like really good episode 1, so they really know how to hook you, but then how it goes on is a little bit like, So even now from episode 1, it's like these 6 characters all have their wishes they want to be granted, but obviously our protagonist wants to save his sister and we don't know the wishes of the others. And so are they going to establish like super high stakes where all of the wishes are ones that want to be granted? Will they pull a Fate Stay Night, spoiler alert, where, you know, the wish doesn't really get granted and it's all just a bigger ploy, you know, to like some further plot? So I'm very curious because of course the story is very Fate Stay Nighty, so I'm kind of just worried about the predictableness of it, right? Because Akina's wish is one that you want to see come true. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people have that shared fear of banger episode 1 and mediocre remaining season, and so I really want to see how they treat the remaining cast, because again, I'm going to mention Shadow vs. Flame, which you 100% should watch. That anime has established this standard for me now where you can have a really cool main character and a really good establishment from episode 1, but then you introduce every other character and you let them get developed so much that they can all be protagonists. And I think DivineZ needs to do that. We need to be in a position where every single character that has a divine card or fated card, whatever they're called, has to feel like they could be the protagonist of this anime, and we should all be as invested in each of them and wish that either of them would win the whole thing and have their wish come true. So So I'm very curious to see how they're going to tackle that, because I think otherwise we're going to have just a root for Akina and see everyone else fall kind of scenario. And because this is still a product anime, still a toy anime technically, we have to introduce cards and sell product. I'm curious how they're going to navigate that, because, you know, they need to somehow introduce these cards without the people using those cards losing, because it's pretty rare for us to have a character introduce new ace card and then immediately lose, because that's like bad marketing. Although I personally don't think that it is the case. I think you can make a card look really cool. I mean, they somehow managed to introduce Dragonic Overlord the end and then immediately have it lose and then still be one of the most popular of like cards ever. So clearly it is possible to introduce a card and still make the character lose and still make it look hype and cool, and good writing is the answer to that. So I have high hopes for them having learned their lesson, and hopefully that we have a well-written and enjoyable season. But let me know your first impressions of DivineZ. Of course, only one episode is out so far, and I'm curious to see how episode 2 will go, because it'll be the main bread and butter of the fight. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, if you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. And of course, if you want more anime related content, let me know in the comments below. I really make these quite rarely, but if there is demand for it, I am down to make more. And of course, if you want to support the channel, becoming a YouTube channel member is a great way to do that. I'm also recording some content again for YouTube channel members, so look forward to that being posted very soon if you are an existing channel member. But otherwise, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.